And I'm sure that that process and that principle you can describe various places in various different contexts. I'm talking about the leadership principle: first understand, then be understood. That is a skill lawyers particularly need. It's also, if you think about it, a skill, a necessary skill, that puts me, again, at a disadvantage today as I stand here trying to sell you on the principles of leadership that I think you ought to pay attention to. Because I really don't understand you, I don't understand your culture, or how you think, or I just don't understand. I raised a couple of sons that are now entering middle age, but I don't really have a feel for you. So as I speak here on leadership, I can't come forward with that side of the bargain because I don't really know you. Another good example of the principles that I've been enunciating is in the Doris Kearns Goodwin book, Team of Rivals, about how Abraham Lincoln put a cabinet together made up of people who'd run against him for the presidency. That book and that concept is kind of in vogue today because our president-elect Obama is doing some of that, bringing in rivals and putting them in a cabinet. And Doris Kearns Goodwin wrote this really wonderful story of how Lincoln put together a cabinet of people who I'd call them arch enemies, some of them anyway, all of whom expected they were going to be the president, and many of whom had reason to believe they would be, but he won. And then he puts them together and makes them a cabinet to run. The particular story that I picked out to illustrate what I'm telling you today, the Secretary of the Treasury was a man by the name of Salmon P. Chase. Great name, isn't it? Salmon P. Chase. First time I ever ran across it, I was working at a bank here when I was in college, and the guy came to show me. I was in college, as I said, in college. He said, Salmon P. Chase's picture is on the $10,000 bill. You don't very often see a $10,000 bill, but that Salmon P. Chase's picture's on it. First time I ever heard that name, and I never forgot it. Anyway, in 1864, Salmon P. Chase acted like and did some things that looked like he was going to run against Lincoln in 1864 when Lincoln was running for a second term. Here he's the Secretary of the Treasury. He's worked with Lincoln for 4 years as a part of Lincoln's cabinet, and now Chase is making moves and writing letters and doing things in a position to run against Lincoln for a second term nomination. Lincoln knew what Chase was doing, but he just let him do it. He even informed Chase that a circular that Chase had distributed pushing Chase's candidacy had not surprised him. He said, you know, I had knowledge that you were doing that and that there were people out there working for you. And he told Chase he didn't intend to hold him responsible. Now think of it. Just think about that. You're in the middle of a civil war. I mean, this is big time crisis. And Chase is the guy who's been the Secretary of Treasury who was financing that war and incidentally doing a good job of it, putting together the programs that under very difficult circumstances that are financing the war. And he's absolutely disloyal to his boss and trying to supplant him. And Lincoln knew it. He doesn't even tell him he's holding him responsible for the action. In the end, it all worked out to Lincoln's advantage because Chase couldn't beat him. He couldn't get Lincoln off the ticket. Chase couldn't put together the support of the people that he needed to run against him, and Lincoln still kept him in the cabinet to do the job he'd done in many respects pretty well. Here's Now, I mean, it's just an incredible leadership feat. Here's Doris Goodman's quote in the aftermath of it. "Discipline and keen insight." What's keen insight? First understand, then be understood. Discipline and keen insight had once again served Lincoln most effectively by regulating his emotions, resisting the impulse to strike back at Chase when the circular first became known. He'd gained time for his friends to mobilize the massive latent support for his, Lincoln's, candidacy. Chase's aspirations were crushed without Lincoln's direct intrusion. He'd known all along that his Treasury Secretary was no innocent, but by seeming to accept Chase's word, he allowed the Secretary to retain some measure of his dignity. At the same time, the country retained Chase's services in the cabinet. Again, I'm reading from Doris Goodwin, and this is the last sentence. She says, "Lincoln himself would determine the appropriate time for Chase's departure." Now, all the principles that I've been outlining are in that little incident and in Goodwin's narrative. Lincoln understood himself. He knew that everybody else, any normal human being, would have cut Chase's legs off. I mean, most people wouldn't even think about it. With this kind of disloyalty at the highest level of the government, Lincoln knew how he felt about the matter and about Chase. He knew himself very well, but he had discipline. He knew what Chase thought. He knew what Chase was doing. He knew why Chase wanted to be president. He knew all about that. In fact, he knew why Chase was running so hard. It was unbridled ambition. Chase had always had it. Chase desperately wanted to be president, so much so he couldn't help himself. On the other hand, Lincoln knew that he had friends who would, as Doris Goodwin put it, crush. I love the word crush Chase, and they did. They crushed his nomination. And Lincoln wanted Chase around because he'd done a good job. He knew he had to retain his dignity. It's a masterful stroke of leadership. I submit to you, as I did at the beginning, that all the principles are the same. Know yourself, know what you want to achieve, know the other person or people you're dealing with, and what they're all about and why. I want to give you a little pithier example, one that's a little more down to earth, but it's all the same principles. Let me tell you about Jerry Ford's admonition, Jerry Ford's mother's admonition to him. He said that his mother always told him there were only 3 rules in the household for the children. 1, work hard. 2, tell the truth. And 3, get to dinner on time. Now, lots of ways that says it all. That says it all. Work hard. Work. I've given you a lot of things to work on. Work hard. Do it. Go at it. Give it your diligence. Everything you've got, give it to it. Second one, tell the truth is obvious. You won't have any credibility if you don't tell the truth. Build a reputation for telling the truth. Gosh knows if you live in this town, Jerry Ford had that, the ultimate. He told the truth. Build a reputation for that. And if you think about what Dorothy Ford said, and the quote that I read you from Goodwin about Lincoln, he told the truth all along. He'd let Chase know he'd known what he was doing behind his back as Chase was trying to knife him. He also said he understood it. Lincoln understood what he was doing. And if you think about it, who comes out the winner? Chase was trying to tell Lincoln that he didn't know anything about it. Chase said he didn't do anything with it. It wasn't him. He wasn't the winner, because that just doesn't sell. You have to tell the truth. But you don't have to cram it down the next guy's throat. When you speak, you have to tell the truth, and people have to know you do it. And that's obvious. That gets us all into trouble if we try not to.